A little girl stood in the street, mercilessly mocked by a pack of boys. Her clothes were old and worn, her hair ragged and unwashed, and she had no shoes. But she clung to a tattered book like it was the most precious thing in the world. One of the boys had dragged an old, mostly broken baby carriage from a nearby junk pile. They shoved it at her, jeering. "Don't you even know how to play like a girl? Here's your baby carriage, girl. Girls don't need books. Girls don't wear pants." Taunts like that, mixed with shoves and laughter. From across the street, Lexi sat in a diner, wishing for better coffee, better company, or at least a clean tablecloth. The waitress, a woman who could fill a coffee cup with the same disdain usually reserved for deadbeat husbands and cops, grumbled, "Serves her right." Lexi looked up, her stare enough to melt even the lumpy gravy in this joint. "Can I help you, honey?" the waitress muttered, still dripping with coffee-serving contempt. "No," Lexi said quietly, rising from the booth, "but I sure wish I could help you." She stepped outside and crossed the street. Lexi wore pants too, but no one, no man, no boy, and darn few women would dare say she shouldn't. They fit in all the right places and looked just as good coming as going. She slid between the boys and the girl, who wasn't letting herself cry. Lexi's voice was smooth but sharp. "I hear girls don't wear pants." She pivoted slowly, letting them take in the full effect. Their adolescent brains scrambled for a response, or at least a way to pull their mouths shut. Lexi stepped toward the ringleader, leaned down, and whispered in his ear, "Don't I look like a girl to you?" He froze like a $2 statue. "Yes, ma'am," he stammered. "Ma'am? Well, that's interesting." She straightened up. "Do I look like a ma'am to you? Isn't your mother a ma'am? Do you look at your mother like that?" The boy said nothing. His little boy brain had run out of quick comebacks, and his little boy body shook with a mix of forbidden thoughts and raw desperation. He wanted to run, but he also never wanted to move again. He wished she had never said those things, and at the same time, he wanted her to say them again. Lexi turned to the little girl, who watched, wide-eyed, as if seeing her favorite movie serial hero in action. The girl's grip on her book loosened, and her face brightened, and she smiled as Lexi knelt in front of her. It was the kind of smile reserved for rare moments, loved ones, special days, happy thoughts. A smile far too rare in her young life. Lexi smiled back and stopped herself from saying, "Honey." The girl would hear enough of that in her life. "Well, young lady, what do we have here?" She glanced at the book. The girl's face lit up. No one had ever looked past her clothes, past her hair, and paid attention to the book she treasured. The girl held it out like an offering. Lexi took it carefully. Principles of Science and Mathematics. That title startled even Lexi. "It's how to do everything, how to do anything," the girl whispered, her first words in days. Lexi gently handed the book back. "Hold on to this for me, will you?" She stood and turned back to the boys, still shuffling their feet, hands shoved in their pockets, waiting for their cue. She took a step forward, rolling up the sleeve of her blouse with one hand. "Are you still here?" They weren't for long. They scattered like loose change from a worn-out pocket, not worth all that much, and gone in an instant. She hoped their leader would think long and hard. She smirked at that accidental choice of words. And remember the scent of her perfume, the warmth of her breath as she whispered in his ear, and what it felt like to be that close to a grown-up woman. She hoped it would do him some good. "It never hurts to know what you're shooting for in life," she mused. Maybe it would set him, and the rest of them, by adolescent osmosis, on a less crooked path. Maybe it would lead them toward a better road, one they might find if they ever let themselves look for it. Lexi turned back to the girl. "Now, I don't know about you, but that made me hungry." The girl's eyes widened. She hadn't eaten all day. "You too?" Lexi asked, knowing the answer, knowing what that kind of hunger felt like. The girl nodded eagerly. Lexi reached out. The girl took her hand, still clutching her precious book with the other. "Well, okay then, shall we?" Together, they crossed the street and stepped back into the diner. "Please let them have just one clean tablecloth and two clean forks," Lexi muttered under her breath. The waitress lumbered over and bumped the table with all the grace of a longshoreman after the bars let out. "We don't serve kids in here." "Well, that's awfully good to know," Lexi said, without missing a beat. "But I think we'll skip the stew anyway, just in case." She watched the girl for a smile, maybe even the beginnings of a giggle. "Miss," Lexi prompted. The girl hesitated, then said, "Matilda." She glanced at the waitress, expecting disapproval. Almost every time she had said her name before, it had meant punishment, a scolding, a spanking, a slap on the wrist. But this time was different. This time, she felt good saying it out loud, saying it because Lexi wanted to hear it. "Miss Matilda and I will have roast beef," Lexi said, watching for Matilda's nod. "And potatoes." Another nod. "And gravy and green beans and bread with lots of butter and apple pie and the 2 biggest glasses of milk you have." Matilda had stopped nodding. She was trying not to cry. This moment was more than she had dared to dream of, more than she had let herself dream of for so long. She couldn't remember. "That all?" the waitress grumbled, having given up writing somewhere around apple pie. "No," Lexi leaned back. "We'll also need a fresh piece of paper and a pencil if you have it. Miss Matilda and I have some mathematics to do while we wait." Matilda beamed. This was better than a dream.